One of the most important DM instincts for a DM to hone is their understanding of the concept of stakes. Stakes increase and heighten the tension of the stories we tell at the tabletop. Tension is what makes for a compelling story, and what in turn creates player engagement. And so if you want to avoid players being bored at your table or finding themselves getting distracted and not invested in the game, you might want to increase your use of stakes at the table. So stakes can come in a variety of different forms, but the all-important aspect of it is that the results of the player's actions have to matter to the players. And this is what creates that sense of the world being very expansive and interactive. It's not actually the amount of details that you put into world building, although that is a part of it. But you could have the most detailed world built, of all time, and players could still feel like the world is empty because of a lack of stakes, because they feel like none of their actions in the world have any actual tangible effect. Therefore, doesn't matter how big it is, it just still feels empty. Now, of course, the biggest stake that is set up in D&D is the one that creating a character implicitly implies, and that is the stake of life or death over your character. Once you've created a character, you've put this individual into the world and gave them a backstory and made them a main character in the story. The idea that they could die and then no longer be part of that story is itself a stake. And that's what hit points are. The draining of your hit points is the getting closer and closer to the realization of the ultimate stake. My character could die. But that by no means is the only stake you can use, and in fact you shouldn't rely too heavily on that being the only stake, because there's so much else that players care about in the game. Of course, players care about whether their character lives or dies, but characters also, or players rather, also very much care about how much their character succeeds and how prosperous their character is in the world. You'll find as a DM that players vastly enjoy creating wealth for their characters and finding magic items and starting organizations, collecting clout, but even infamy. Really, all of this is their attempts for their character to make a mark on the world, and those kind of effects that they have can be inverted by the DM as potential future stakes. So the fact that a player gets a magic sword is exciting for the player, but it also creates the dynamic of what if someone were to steal your magic sword? What if you were to lose your magic sword somehow? What if there was some sort of dynamic in which you had to sacrifice your own magic sword in order to save one of your party members? So setting up those kind of interesting dynamics can allow for the stakes to be heightened, and it doesn't necessarily have to do with a character's hit points. It can be the things that they have grown fond of, as well as the people and NPCs that they have grown fond of. If they have become attached to a certain NPC, that NPC can be kidnapped or in need of rescue or has a problem that needs solving, that if the characters don't solve it, could be massively devastating for that NPC. Now, when characters create that bond with an NPC, it is kind of unpredictable as to when that happens. So I would wait for the characters to make that connection rather than you, as the DM, force that connection upon the players. But once they've made that connection, those NPC friends can be excellent sources of heightening the stakes, or what's at stake for the players. Once you kind of wrap your head around the concept that anything the players do can be turned around to heighten the stakes, then you'll find, as a DM, you can engage your players far more significantly, because no matter where they go or what they do, they will be engaged as their actions increase the stakes for their characters.